Big time light heavyweight fight in our main event. As always, one half your hosting duo, Craig Allen. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Craig Allen FNP. And you can find the channel at Fight Night Picks. And you can find my co-host Matt at Matt Allen FNP on the respective socials. And Matt, when the pandemic started and we were out of ideas, we decided to do really weird, like March Madness style brackets with fighters. It didn't matter what promotion they were with. We did them all the way up from flyweight to heavyweight. We had a lot of fun with it. And at light heavyweight, if I'm not mistaken, I remember the graphic. It was John Jones and Jiri Prochazka. And I feel like they made it all the way to the finals. But if they didn't, they made it pretty damn close. And we were on that Yuri hype train as far as watching Rizin, going back through the anthology. This guy is such an interesting specimen. He was a Muay Thai champion before he joined MMA. And if you go back and look at the old pictures of Yuri, well, he kind of looks like Matt with a shaved head. Like, he looks like a guy that's kind of squirrely and long and doesn't really belong in MMA, let alone some of these big promotions. And for Jiri Prochazka, look at the record. 31 total fights, 27 total wins. What is it, 24 by knockout? 24. It's absolutely insane. And then you look at some of the wins and you might think, okay, well, Darko Stozic, all right, it is what it is. He lost to King Mo. He'd eventually avenge that one. I went back and watched that one today. King Mo looked pretty old and pretty tired by like the second half of the second round. But still, he beat Fujita, who was old. But then you go through it. I mean, Carl Albrechtsen, that's a quality win. Jake Hune, the Honey Bear, that's a pretty good win. Brandon Halsey, Bellator vet. Fabio Maldonado was washed, and if you go back and watch that one, Fabio doesn't really offer much of anything. He doesn't shoot for takedowns. He's just pretty content to hold his hands like this and take a paycheck.
I mean, he is a boxer.
But CB Dollaway, on the other hand, that was one where they both kind of went at it, and at the end of it, Yuri knocked him out pretty well cold. And CB got to wear his wrestling shoes. So Jiri Prochazka is one of the most interesting cases because for a guy that has a Muay Thai background, he doesn't hold his hands up like this. Sometimes he just holds them down by his waist. And he stands there with his chin out, and he invites you to strike with him.
Okay, we have polar opposite fighters in this respect. Dominick Reyes is still a fighter who's really learning what he's doing on the job. The fact that Dominick Reyes really fought for the title to begin with just kind of tells you how special of an athlete that he is. And don't worry, I'm going to talk to you guys about his athleticism.
He's an athlete.
He is, but that's the weird thing about Dominick Reyes. It's not like he has some background in wrestling or jiu-jitsu or striking that he can really fall upon. Dominick Reyes is just a well-rounded athlete who's good at everything.
Just a football player at heart.
Oh, you gotta stop. So, the great thing about Reyes, though, is the fact that, yes, he does have some of those weird intangibles that we kind of talk about when we talk about other fighters who do have, like, weird backgrounds, like track backgrounds, who have really good cardio. Dominick Reyes, he just is great at kind of everything, but he is somewhat bare bones in his approach and his whole style. He's very big for the weight class, one of the biggest 205ers you'll really find. Just not only with his frame, but his range, too. He's a guy who can keep a very long range from his opponent. But the weird thing about Dominick Reyes is that I kind of liken him to a Dwight Grant. Now, he is Dwight Grant at his highest level. He's like a Super Saiyan Dwight Grant, if you will. But Dominick Reyes has a really weird zone where he has big power, and then he has weird power everywhere else. And I don't know at the Jan Blachowicz fight, which is a bad performance from him, but let's just be honest. He got mopped by Jan Blachowicz. And I know Jan Blachowicz is the champ, but he didn't look good in that fight whatsoever. And I think we can talk about two different things. Either A, he burned his gas tank too fast against John Jones, and that's what he was worried about in this fight. He thought, okay, if I got the first 2 rounds off Jones and I got tired in the last 3, then okay, if I can somewhat conserve myself against Jan Blachowicz, then maybe I won't have the same fate. Maybe if I pick up the second, 4th and 5th round, I can win a decision or at least just make it more competitive in the later rounds. Or the style of Jan Blachowicz just gave Dominick Reyes problems, and I think that's what it was. Dominick Reyes only has 14 fights, and only 12 of those are wins. When you talk about Jiri Prochazka, we talk about the fact that 24 of his wins are by knockout. He has twice as many knockouts as Dominick Reyes just has wins. And the weird thing about Yuri is, it's not like he was getting away scot-free in all of his fights. He's a guy who is somewhat hittable, and yes, you might not love that, but the one thing about Prochazka is that he can get hurt and come back in a fight. I've seen it happen. He can get hit clean, not only get wobbled, get dropped, but he comes back strong. And he is a fighter who, you might not like some of his mannerisms in the cage. Yes, he is sort of a showman, if you will, where he does that weird thing where he'll hold his hands, or he will move all weird.
Or he just looks away.
But at the end of the day, when he is the one moving forward with combinations, there's not much you can do. Like, he has crazy power in his hands, he has really good hand speed, and he has this weird unorthodox way of striking, which is weird too, because he's a guy who's been striking for his whole life, so you think, okay, so he's gonna be like Adesanya, where it's like his technique's so good it looks unorthodox. No, not really. Like, he does lunge in weird ways to leave him open, but he has had so many MMA fights that I do think there's a method to Yuri Prochazka's madness. I really do. And I think that with his weird way of striking, you have to be one of those lifelong strikers to really pick up on those holes and capitalize on them. I look at a guy like Jan Blachowicz. Does he match up well with a guy like Prochazka? Yeah, he kind of does, just because his style is made up too. Okay, I'm going to pick up on your holes, then I'm going to capitalize on them. With Dominick Reyes, he will just react to a lot of what you're doing, and other than that straight left, I don't know if I love a lot of the other attacks from Dominick Reyes. The bare bones approach of his attack, I do think, is somewhat of a strength, because it's allowed him to pick up on a lot of skills very fast and turn him into a championship, at least challenging fighter. It's just at the end of the day, other than the straight left, other than the jab, and other than a few kicks, I just don't know what other weapons I'm supposed to be worried about from Dominick Reyes if you're in the corner of Jiri Prochazka.
That Jan Blachowicz fight was really the only time that we saw Dominick Reyes really just hit a wall from the start.
Because terrible.
Jan Blachowicz did everything in that fight that Dominick Reyes normally does well. He threw body kicks. He threw kicks to the legs. Sure. He would throw in combination coming up. He threw a nice uppercut. There's two good punches that Dominick Reyes has. Well, he has multiple, but there's really two that he uses. His left straight is great. It looks amazing. It goes right down the pipe, and there's tons and tons of power. If you want to go back and see a good finish with it, it's his UFC debut against Joachim Christensen. You can laugh and say, well, Joachim wasn't that good. Maybe he wasn't.
The Weidman one, same thing.
It was a good win. The Weidman fight, same thing. The other thing he throws really well is his left uppercut, and he throws it really, really fast, and he bends his elbow in such a way that it just kind of pops right up. He can throw it from a little bit of distance, but usually it's in tight. He might grab you a hockey jersey style with this hand, and then bam, he'll get you, like Paul Bissonnette. But then you look at the rest of his career. Jeremy Kimball, we're going to kick a little bit, we're going to take you down, and that transition to the back was kind of crazy. The way that he got it, that was a really good win. I went back and watched the Jared Cannonier fight today. Cannonier's bringing the power and bringing the pressure to Dominick Reyes. Reyes even gets hit by some of the big shots. He withstands it, and he's able to finish Cannonier, drops him, and Cannonier the second time pretty much face-planted. That was it. OSP fight, it was a little bit closer. Again, a good decision win over a recognizable opponent. Now, if you want to play MMA math, did he beat Volkan Oezdemir? I don't know, but
I didn't think so at the time.
Yuri Prochazka knocked him out, so again, MMA math if you want to play it. Then he beats Chris Weidman in just straight up a weird fight. Weidman, though, I did like this out of Dominick Reyes. Takes him down, and Reyes gets right back to the cage, pops right back up, and then they clinch, and then Reyes ends up finishing the fight. The Jon Jones fight. A lot of people think that Dominick Reyes won that fight. They thought that he won the first 3 rounds. I went back and watched it today twice. And I had Jon Jones winning the second round. Again, he pressured quite a bit.
It's a very close fight, though.
It was a really close fight. Reyes lands, but to me, I had Jones round 2, round 4, round 5, and I had Reyes in 1 and 2. And Reyes won the first round easily, but Jon Jones kind of looked off, and Reyes looked great. So you got to kind of talk about both sides of that coin. And then in the Jan Blachowicz fight, it was like some of those memes where you listen to Start Me Up by the Rolling Stones, and then it just keeps going, dan-dan-dan, because he wasn't really able to get started. The other weird thing, for the Jon Jones fight, I think he had 1, maybe 2 of his brothers in the corner, but it was an Arrested Development special the last time we saw Dominick Reyes. It was, hey brother, hey brother, hey brother. We had all the Reyes brothers, and yeah, one of them fought in the UFC one time and then had a really weird injury, and we never got to see him again.
Shout out to Alex.
But Dominick is the one that's really carved out the career. So for Dominick, he's coming in on a 2-fight losing streak. If it's the Dominick Reyes that we got on the win streak all the way up, that was undefeated when he took on Jon Jones, it's a lot of kicks early. He does a nice job of going to the calf, going to kind of closer to the knee. He can whip it to the body. Everything you saw Jan Blachowicz do really well against Dominick Reyes, Reyes can usually do stuff like that. He doesn't really pop out much of a jab, which is weird because he's got the type of stance where he's a southpaw, he kind of stands way back, and he keeps his hands up. And it's one of those ones that if Yuri's out there leaning his head into it, maybe you get an uppercut, maybe you get a left straight, maybe you command a little bit of the respect, and the tides totally turn. But again, from Yuri and all of these fights, and I'm talking Hughes, Halsey, Kingmo, Maldonado, Dalloway, and Volkan Oezdemir, he does the exact same thing in every single fight, and it rarely even changes. The game plan's pretty much the same. And this is a guy that goes out for like open air hikes in the mountains, and he's doing all kinds
He's
of
in
weird
great
stuff.
shape.
Look at his hair coming into this one. It's kind of wonky. It's something to see. You'll
Like
see
if I
it.
shaved everything but this.
You'll see it on Saturday. It's a little different. But for Yuri Prochazka, he is one of the most interesting strikers out there, and it's the type of style that I think can cause a lot of people fits. This is such an interesting fight.
It really is. And this is the problem for Dominick Reyes. When we talk about all of his highlights and the best moments of his career, we talk about a fight that he lost and a fight against really a blown up middleweight who had never fought at light heavyweight before. Because really, the Chris Weidman fight's the thing that got him the title fight. And yes, you can, however you want to scale Jared Cannonier at light heavyweight. Maybe you thought he was good there. Maybe you like him a lot more at 185. I know personally I do. But still, it's just, with Reyes, I haven't really seen him beat that upper level of competition and do it convincingly. Like, he had a kind of close fight against OSP till he almost knocked him out in the last second of it with a straight left. But my problem with Reyes, when you see Prochazka get hit, it's when his opponent throws in combination. Even look at Volkan Oezdemir. Volkan Oezdemir couldn't hit him with that first punch. Couldn't hit him even with the second punch because the head movement of Prochazka is pretty good. I know he likes to play around and do a lot of that stuff, but he is good with it. Like, he does that for a reason. Think about Alistair Overeem before he started getting knocked out a lot, like the third time. He knew he had a bad chin, and he kind of used that as bait almost to get people to really overextend with their shots, and then he could counter them effectively. I do think Prochazka, it's not like he's as fragile as, late career Alistair Overeem, but he's a very high-level striker, and I do think that those tricks and traps that he sets on the feet are going to be stuff that Dominick Reyes falls for. With Reyes, it sucks, because in boxing, if you had a guy who fought for a title and then lost another fight for a title, he fights someone so far out of the rankings, you probably never heard of them, and honestly, you probably just went to high school with that person. Like, they don't give them another upper echelon fight. They let that person's skill set kind of go back down to basic, and then you can build upon, the positives that were already there. You don't give him the 5th ranked fighter in the world off of a 2-fight losing streak. So for me, just the UFC isn't doing Dominick Reyes any favors in a fight that stylistically, I don't think he's going to win. So I do think Prochazka is going to be able to get it done. I like his power on the feet. I do like his movement on the feet. I know we kind of talked to that a little bit as a negative, but against a guy like Reyes, I do think he'll be able to capitalize on his one-shot selection. Again, if Reyes lands that one shot, probably going to be a straight left, and it probably will hurt Prochazka. But again, it's a lot easier to rely on the, I'm going to say well-rounded, but I'll just say the more expanded skill set of Prochazka, especially on the feet, than Dominick Reyes in this fight. But I'll be honest, this fight I'm really looking forward to.
Tricky fight. In terms of the odds, they've stayed about the same since they opened. Reyes a plus 110 underdog. Prochazka about a minus 130, 135 or thereabouts. Over on Topology, you have 1,090 total votes, 73% with Prochazka, 91% by knockout. For the 27% that have Reyes, you have 66% by knockout. So a lot of fans thinking there's probably going to be a finish in this fight. And yeah, I like Denisa in this fight from Czech Republic. I think Jiri Prochazka, again, he's one of those guys that sets up a lot of traps with a lot of different feints. For Dominick Reyes, he's usually moving forward. He usually moves in on a line. And you can kind of, if you can figure him out, and it's not easy. Trust me. I mean, John Jones felt like he was kind of testing the waters in the first round, but even he struggled. Like, Dominick Reyes had the fight of his life in that fight. So kudos to him. He's making it further in fighting than I'll ever make it. But this is a really tricky one. And yeah, have we seen Yuri Prochazka struggle against a wrestler? Yeah, I mean, the first King Mo fight.
Here's the thing. You keep on bringing that up. Prochazka's only 28. He fought King Mo when he was 23 years old. So that would be like me getting ready to fight King Mo in 1 year. Like, it's not that big of a deal to have a loss against a guy who is very experienced and who's already been there and done that throughout his career. I don't look at that loss as a really big dark spot on Prochazka's career, especially the fact that he came back and beat him in the rematch. If anything, and I know this is overplayed in MMA, you win or you learn. And I do understand in the King Mo fight, he did kind of wait and age King Mo out at a certain point. But in MMA, that's the great thing about this sport. You can lose and get better because of it, and I really do think for Prochazka, that was one of those opportunities. For Reyes, that's the last thing I want to touch on. We talked about Prochazka. He can lose a fight and then come back in it. With Dominick Reyes, when things don't start going his way, when the rope does start to get pulled the other way, he does have a hard time bringing things back. Once things start going against him, they do start to pile on. Even think of the John Jones fight. no matter how you scored that second round, it was Dominick Reyes starts the fight very strong. But once Jon Jones starts to have success, and once he is starting to download that game plan of Reyes, then you start to see him just have more success and more success and more success as that fight goes on. Same thing with Blachowicz. He's landing in the openings in the first round, and then as the second round progresses, those openings just keep on getting bigger and bigger. It's just an overall thing. I haven't seen it yet out of Reyes, so maybe if he gets dropped in this fight and comes back, he's going to show me something I haven't seen. It's just he has yet to show me the ability to come back in a fight yet, and that is something that concerns me.
1,800 total votes in the YouTube community tab for Fight Night picks. 55% Prochazka, 45% Reyes. Let us know down below in the comment section who you're going with in this fight. But we both have Yuri Prochazka to get the win. I'm really looking forward to it. Wild week in MMA. There's so many different cards going on, so make sure you check something out. But with Fight Night Picks over on Saturday, we're going to have question mark kicks. You're not going to want to miss that. We offer up our final previews and predictions. So keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. And as we always say, let's get into it.